Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana has launched a sweeping and highly publicized investigation, drawing national attention to a debate that has been simmering for years. Cassidy, a prominent Republican voice in the Senate, has long been vocal about his concerns regarding fairness and integrity in school sports. Now, with mounting pressure from his constituents and fellow lawmakers, he is taking decisive action to address what he sees as inconsistencies and loopholes in current policies. The investigation zeroes in on how 18 states, along with Washington, D.C., are managing and implementing policies for transgender athletes in school sports. These policies have become a flashpoint in the broader national conversation about gender identity, student rights, and the role of government in education. Cassidy's inquiry is not just about the rules on paper, but about how those rules are being put into practice in real schools, affecting real students and their families. As chairman of the influential Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee, Cassidy is wielding significant power. His investigation comes in direct response to President Trump's recent executive order, which calls for stricter enforcement of federal guidelines regarding sex-based distinctions in education. The executive order has reignited debates across the country, prompting lawmakers, educators, and advocacy groups to take sides and speak out. Cassidy's committee is now tasked with gathering information, holding hearings, and potentially recommending changes to federal oversight. At the heart of the investigation is a fundamental question. Are schools and colleges truly complying with federal laws, especially Title IX? Title IX, passed in 1972, was designed to ensure that no person is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance on the basis of sex. Over the decades, Title IX has been a cornerstone of progress for women and girls in education and athletics. But now, its interpretation is being challenged in new and complex ways. Senator Cassidy's focus is on enforcing a version of Title IX that defines sex as strictly male or female, a stance that directly challenges states and school districts that allow transgender athletes to compete according to their gender identity. Supporters of Cassidy's approach argue that it preserves fairness and a level playing field for all athletes, particularly girls and young women. Critics, however, say that such a narrow definition excludes and marginalizes transgender students, denying them the opportunity to participate fully in school life. The states under scrutiny, among them California, New York, and Massachusetts, have some of the most inclusive policies for transgender athletes in the nation. These states have become battlegrounds in a larger cultural clash over transgender rights, with passionate advocates on both sides. Protests, rallies, and heated public meetings have become common as communities wrestle with how best to balance inclusion, fairness, and the rights of all students. The investigation is shining a spotlight on these local debates, bringing them to the forefront of national policy discussions. The outcome of Senator Cassidy's investigation could have far-reaching consequences, potentially reshaping policies for students, athletes, and schools across the country. As lawmakers, educators, and families await the committee's findings, the nation is watching closely. The decisions made in the coming months may set new precedents for how schools address gender, sports, and civil rights for years to come. Title IX, passed by Congress in 1972, is a landmark federal civil rights law that prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or educational program receiving federal funding. Before Title IX, opportunities for women and girls in education and athletics were extremely limited, with many schools offering few, if any, sports teams or leadership roles for female students. The law was designed to level the playing field, ensuring that no one would be denied participation or benefits in educational activities simply because of their sex. Over the past 5 decades, Title IX has dramatically increased opportunities for female athletes, transforming the landscape of school sports across the country. Today, millions of girls participate in athletics, gaining not only physical skills, but also confidence, teamwork, and leadership experience. The law's impact extends beyond sports, opening doors for women in science, technology, engineering, and math, and helping to close the gender gap in higher education. In recent years, however, the conversation around Title IX has evolved, The debate now centers on whether its protections should also extend to gender identity, raising complex questions about inclusion, fairness, and the definition of sex in education. This issue has sparked passionate discussions among policymakers, educators, parents, and students, with some advocating for broader protections and others calling for a more traditional interpretation. Senator Cassidy's recent investigation seeks to clarify and potentially enforce a binary, biological interpretation of sex under Title IX. This approach would limit the law's protections to those assigned male or female at birth, excluding gender identity as a protected category. The outcome of this investigation could have far-reaching consequences for how schools address issues of gender, privacy, and participation in sports. At its core, this debate is about much more than just athletics. It touches on the fundamental principles of equality, fairness, and access to education for all students, regardless of their background or identity. The decisions made now will shape the experiences of future generations, influencing not only who gets to play on the field, but who feels welcome and supported in our nation's schools. As the investigation unfolds, educators, students, and families across the country are watching closely. The outcome could redefine how gender identity is treated in schools and athletics, setting new standards for inclusion, competition, and the meaning of equality in American education. In early 2025, President Trump made headlines across the nation when he issued a sweeping executive order titled, "Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports." This directive marked a significant turning point in federal policy, signaling a dramatic shift from the previous administration's approach to gender and athletics. The order was signed in a highly publicized ceremony at the White House, with supporters and critics alike watching closely as the president put pen to paper, setting the stage for a new era in the ongoing debate over gender identity and sports participation. The executive order specifically reversed the broader interpretation of Title IX that had been adopted under the prior administration. Where the previous policy had expanded protections to include gender identity, President Trump's order narrowed the definition, emphasizing a return to what he called the original intent of the law. This move was met with both praise and criticism, as it fundamentally altered the landscape for student athletes across the country. Under the new directive, the Department of Education was instructed to enforce Title IX based strictly on biological sex assigned at birth, rather than gender identity. This meant that schools receiving federal funding were now required to separate sports teams and competitions according to biological sex, a mandate that would have far-reaching implications for students, educators, and athletic organizations nationwide. Supporters of the executive order argue that it restores what they see as fairness and integrity in women's sports. They claim that allowing transgender women to compete in female categories creates an uneven playing field, and that this policy is necessary to protect opportunities for cisgender female athletes. Many parents, coaches, and athletes have voiced their approval, saying the order ensures that girls and women can compete on equal terms. On the other hand, critics of the policy argue that it discriminates against transgender students, excluding them from participating fully in school sports, and sending a harmful message about acceptance and inclusion. Civil rights groups, LGBTQ+ advocates, and many educators have condemned the order, warning that it could increase stigma and mental health challenges for transgender youth. As a result, schools across the country now face the complex challenge of balancing new federal directives with existing state laws, many of which offer broader protections for transgender students. Administrators and educators are left navigating a patchwork of regulations, trying to ensure compliance while also fostering an inclusive environment for all students. The controversy surrounding this executive order has drawn the attention of lawmakers, including Senator Cassidy, who has launched a high-profile investigation into its impact. The senator's inquiry aims to assess how the policy is being implemented at the local level and whether it aligns with broader educational and civil rights goals. The policy shift has already sparked a wave of legal challenges, with lawsuits filed in multiple states and advocacy groups vowing to fight the order in court. As the legal battles unfold, schools, students, and families remain caught in the middle, facing uncertainty and difficult decisions about the future of sports and inclusivity in American education. Whether transgender girls should play on girls' sports teams is one of the most divisive issues in education today. Some argue that allowing transgender girls to compete undermines fairness due to biological differences. Others believe excluding transgender athletes is discriminatory and harms their social and emotional development. State laws vary widely, reflecting deep societal divisions over gender and identity. The debate is about more than sports. It's about equality, rights, and how society defines gender. Finding a balance that respects all individuals remains a major challenge. Senator Cassidy has sent letters to education departments in 18 states and D.C. He's requested documentation on Title IX policies, steps taken to protect biological females, and records of complaints or disciplinary actions. The deadline for responses is December 8, 2025, highlighting the urgency of the investigation. The information gathered could influence future federal and state policies and fuel further legal battles. For schools, responding means navigating a highly politicized and complex landscape. The Supreme Court is now considering cases that could reshape how Title IX is enforced and how transgender athletes participate in women's sports. These cases may set new legal precedents, either supporting or challenging the administration's interpretation of Title IX. The court's decisions will have far-reaching effects, guiding lower courts and influencing national policy. Both sides are watching closely, as the rulings could clarify a deeply polarized issue. The outcome will impact not just athletes, but the broader debate on civil rights and equality. The investigation's results will deeply affect students, especially transgender individuals, and the schools they attend. For students, participation in sports and access to facilities can shape their school experience and well-being. Schools must balance legal compliance with creating inclusive environments, all under the threat of legal consequences. Parents and communities are divided. Some prioritize fairness for female athletes, others advocate for transgender inclusion. These tensions highlight the complex role schools play in negotiating social values. How schools respond will influence not just athletics, but broader questions of identity and equality. This investigation is a flashpoint in America's ongoing cultural and political battles over gender, rights, and identity. It reflects the deep polarization between progressive and conservative approaches to civil rights and federal law. Media coverage shapes public perception, often reinforcing existing beliefs and fueling division. The investigation is more than a policy dispute, it's a contest over American values and identity. Its outcomes will ripple far beyond education, influencing national attitudes toward gender and rights. Senator Cassidy's investigation marks a pivotal moment in the debate over gender identity, rights, and fairness in education. The stakes are high for students, schools, and society, as the investigation's results will have lasting consequences. Schools must navigate federal mandates while striving for inclusivity and fairness. The broader debate challenges Americans to engage thoughtfully with complex issues of identity and rights. Moving forward, a commitment to fairness and understanding will be essential as society adapts to evolving definitions of gender and equality.